Welcome to Progressive Mindset Podcast. My name is Natalie Potts, business coach and mentor, and each week I'll bring you an inspiring personal message to help you unlock creating and living a life full of energy, action, impact and happiness. And today I'm welcoming on Seema. Seema and I are going to discuss some amazing thought processes, how she got into coaching, the benefit of coaching in leading high-performance teams. Seema has over 13 years experience working with Sony Pictures, and she's going to share her journey of how she got into sales, how she came about coaching, and most importantly, how she really drives high performance. You are going to love this episode. Enjoy. So thank you, Seema, for joining me today. Really privileged to have you on and sharing your success and your journey. So on the kind of journey part there, share with us a little bit about you, how you got into coaching and what you love about coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of my career, I've been in media for almost 20 years. So after my MBA, I got into a media organization. This was in India. I worked there for a few years. And then when I moved to UK, I had an opportunity to work with Sony Pictures. So I've been with them for almost 14 years before I decided to move on. And during this process, I've had to set up teams in UK, in South Africa, in India. So there was a lot of interaction and a lot of training to be done, mentoring and coaching to be done as a part of training your team. And that I think probably drew me to get my diploma in coaching with Coaching Academy. So I did the personal performance coaching and the corporate and executive coaching to build my skills further. And also during that whole journey, I felt that I picked up a lot of new skills and also realized my own weaknesses, and how to develop that and improve that further.
Yeah, great. That's really interesting about the part where you say about building skills and that real focus. And it is. And I was writing something today about the fact that, investing in yourself is absolutely key. And I was also sharing with someone earlier in the week that when you sometimes get into coaching, you find that your network changes and you start to be around people very similar. And in some ways that's great, absolutely. But other ways you have to be mindful of that you start at comparisonitis, or you start thinking that actually everybody thinks that way. And actually majority of people still don't have a growth mindset, or they don't realize the investment in investing in themselves. They see it as exactly that, a cost. And it's really interesting. And I love it how you put across that, we're still focusing on ourselves and on our limitations as well, and how important that is. And sometimes I do predominantly think it's our strengths we need to focus on. But I also, know people say you have to focus on your strengths and your weaknesses, or your weaknesses, not your strengths. I do think that you have to be mindful and aware of your weaknesses and be working on them with your strengths. I guess what kind of, if you be quite vulnerable, what skills and weaknesses have you found through doing the academy that you've wanted to work on?
I think there was a lot of me being a sales leader and being the go-getter to assume that everyone in my team would be of similar mindset, would go out of your way, would try and, do selling in the same way as you do. So probably you're trying to create a mini clone of yourself in your team and you see them as similar to you, but it's not necessary. Each one has their own strength, and being aware of that and being, having a inclusive mindset, that they come up with some amazing skill set over there. And that, it took me a long while to realize that because I was trying to create someone who does not have to go through all the challenges that I had to, and try to create a path for them to progress in the same lines as I did without reinventing the wheel. But sometimes you feel that they may need to do that. They may need to go through that, inventing the wheel and understanding what their own requirements are, what their goals are, and seeing if this fits in with their personal goals too. And that's been an amazing journey for me.
Yeah, that's really, really key, I think, because I know when managing teams, especially like I've done corporate exec as well and led teams, and you get the feedback, but they're not like you. They aren't you. And I know at first when I heard that years ago, I was like, well, they should be. They should have the mindset, they should have the drive. Why are they a leader if they're not? But people don't. And it's our job then, like you say, us to look at our skills and how we take them on that journey and help them and empower them, inspire them, engage them to become a better leader. But I also think there's a part of it that you have to be very self-aware yourself, that that parallel of helping others versus your development, because there's also people, it's not as direct as they want to pull us down, but because maybe they see something in us that they want to be as well, it's well, they're not like you, or maybe you need to slow down. And it's actually, well, no, maybe you need to speed up and they need to focus more. Do you see what I mean? Sometimes that's where it becomes you have to be very self-aware of how you are and how you want to be. Otherwise, you can let people's opinions, biases or whatever, then start to impact what you really want. And actually being very driven, ambitious, sometimes that's where you can start to see the negative associations those ideas can have, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're driven and you're ambitious, doesn't mean that the others are not. Probably the way they would reach or approach the same goal or the same vision that you're working towards may be different, and that's absolutely fine, because that's those are their skill sets, and that's their value system, isn't it? So you work with that, ensuring that the vision is the same and we're working towards the same cause. And give them the chance to grow as individuals too. It took a long time for me to realize that, but it's interesting, because when you say that you keep on your path, absolutely, because you have drawn a goal path for yourself, you know what you want to achieve, you keep at it. There will be a lot of hurdles that come in the way, you have to change your track sometimes, but you will eventually reach the goal that you've set for yourself. And I guess every individual has to go through that themselves too. I cannot set the goal for them. They need to find what is their ultimate goal. While in the workspace, you work towards the numbers. I mean, in sales, it's all about numbers that you deliver. But at the same time, help the person progress in whatever they want to.
Yeah, and there's so much proven science and research behind that element of, I know in neuroscience about the kind of 6 things that a healthy mind needs and a person needs in life, like social connection, great exercise, looking at your mental well-being as well. And those areas are really key that you have to focus on and help others to focus on as well. It's more than just, like you say, yes, results, but there's a lot behind empowering people with, like you said, a compelling vision of you're all on the same journey and going there together, especially when you're leading teams and people. You can't just be solo. You're only as good, you're only as good as your team as well.
Yes, true.
That's key. Are you looking to build your own business of coaching, or are you looking to implement what you've learned and continue doing sales?
So I do have, I've joined a coaching organization called Head Stride, where I'm helping with the strategy bit, as well as, the sales element has been ingrained in me for over 20 years. So, helping the organization grow. I do conduct programs too. Programs such as Rediscovering Agreement, which is about conflict resolution, about using mindfulness, call attention to, it's about using mindfulness and meditation as a decompression tool, which I found was very useful for me, especially in stressful times, and very relevant in today's times when you are doing more of virtual meetings, where you're meeting over Zooms and Teams and the other platforms, and not as much of face-to-face interactions. How do you then use these techniques to decompress yourself? So that's another workshop I do. And then, of course, goal setting and, finding your stride. Where do you want to go? and progress further on that. So these are some of the workshops that I have done, and I really enjoy doing those. So I would continue with that, but at the same time, I miss sales. so, so I've been looking at technology firms because that's one area where I would love to develop my skills further and exploring opportunities in that space and building my tech skills.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's out that just kind of proves the point, isn't it? That there is no end destination. It's just, you're always on to another thing, isn't it? And what else can I learn, and how do I better myself? And I think that's when you look at different associated terms of what happiness and success can mean to you, because it can, and actually it can change. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. What's the name of it? It was oh goodness. I can't remember what's his name. Someone Saeed. It's completely escaped me. And he wrote the book Black Box Thinking, but he was on a podcast I was listening to as a guest.
Right.
And he was sharing about the fact that he doesn't actually know potentially what the meaning of success means to him still. And I think we look at people and think, well, you know, it's easy and things like that. And or when somebody says they don't know what it means, like, well, why wouldn't you know what it means? But sometimes we don't. And I think there's a healthy appetite that it can change dependent on our experiences, where we're at in life as well, and same as our values do.
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree. I mean, they say that a mind that has been stretched can never go back, right? So once you have exposed yourself to new ideas, new concepts, your mind grows, opens out new avenues, and things may change over time. You change as a person every day that you interact with someone. So yes, success, I think, probably would be the journey that you're at, not the end destination. Every opportunity you get to learn something new, grab it, because you don't know where that's going to take you ahead in life. The reason I was very interested in technology was I read or heard somewhere that 20 years back in a particular organization, big organization, tech organization, there was 36% of women in that organization, and today, after 20 years, it's dropped down to 24%, and that's amazing. I mean, you would have thought it would have grown, the percentage would have increased, but it's on the contrary, which means there's still some barriers that women go through, and that's one space I want to help, and I think I can only help if I know it myself too, right? Which is why I want to get into it, understand what are the challenges, and then probably coach women who are exploring leadership positions, who are exploring to migrate into technology, but hesitant because they're waiting for 90% of their skill set to match a resume requirement, rather than taking 50% match and then upskilling themselves and jumping and learning on the go. So yeah, that's something which I'm very happy to support women to take those challenges up.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And, I'm part of a leadership team, and I think I now form 10% of it, that female, of that level. And that's staggering, isn't it? And my biggest argument with everything is, because I'm massively passionate about it, like you just said, is that, you're right with the barriers, but we keep talking the barriers, and we keep talking about what they are and how do we overcome them. We're not doing the next step in embedding them, and we're not seeing them come to life, and we're not seeing people role model them, and we're not seeing what could work and what doesn't work out of them. So an example is talking about, we're saying that females can work part-time in a business that's very challenging and demanding. Years ago it wouldn't have worked very well, and that was our outlook. It doesn't really work. And now it's how do we make it work? It's a barrier, but what do we do? Where do we see it? Where's it working well? What are they doing that makes it work well? What are the people like? What are their qualities? What are their skill sets? What else do we need to do then, if it's possible somewhere where it, what could be the obstacles? What's the solution? And that's a big term I've used recently. This is the problem. Right, great. What's the solution? And just that proactiveness to give things a go and see what works, and that freedom that if it fails, it fails, and if it doesn't turn out right, okay, great, this didn't go well, but then the pace and the drive to change that there and then, opposed to just letting it continue and just really understanding things better. And I think you have to have people role modeling that more to really.
Yeah, I fully understand. I fully agree with what you're saying. I mean, whoever is in the leadership role has to drive that movement to be role models for others, and provide mentoring for them, provide sponsorships for women who are aspiring to be in leadership roles, and pave the way for them to move ahead. I remember when I was the sales head for television channels across multiple territories, amongst 45 or 60 odd channels that were there, I was probably the only female sales head. And I had to shout twice to have my voice heard amongst a group of testosterone male counterparts. But that didn't stop me, nor did it stop my seniors to have that faith in me. So I believe that once you're aware of your capabilities, and once you know that you can do it, then it should not stop you from dreaming big. And that's something I would love to tell to all the youngsters and all the students who are probably coming out of their universities now, that go after your dreams and keep working. I mean, don't expect overnight success. That is never possible. Even for entrepreneurs, when they start their organizations, probably 1 out of 10 succeeds, but doesn't stop them from trying again. Keep at it and keep learning and keep exploring and have that confidence. When you mentioned about working from home, I think before the pandemic forced organizations to look at that option, there were friends I knew who were not given the option of working 1 day from home. And they were expected to be at the workplace. But lockdown happened, and overnight the organization had to set up systems in place to make that happen, isn't it? So I guess sometimes things change for the better, because they realize the importance, and it has helped a lot of people to step back and understand what is really important in your life. How do you create that balance? But that doesn't mean that you completely exclude yourself from meeting others, because there's a lot of learning and interaction that happens when you meet other people too. So yeah, that's my 2 bits on it.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's so much within that. I guess one other question I have really is around the coaching side, where you mentioned coaching conflict, because I often think that, and it's not appreciated enough what it is, and so many problems arise in business and life because of conflict, and because there's no clarity and expectation of what, whether it's a relationship, what people want in a relationship, whether it's business, whether it's, are you clear of the expectation, what you've got to deliver. Yeah. And that's when you get conflicts arise. And the amount of situations I've been in where I've been doing, appeals or whatever, and understanding what's got to a point of even potential tribunals and things, it's that level of lack of understanding and conflict, and it is really key, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And rather than using the term conflict, I would probably say disagreement, and the whole idea is, how do you rediscover this agreement between people? Because when you join an organization, you don't come with the intent of, I am going to create these kind of trips. You come with an idea of, yes, we're all going to work together. We are going to be there in the team and take it ahead. But eventually your values, your communication skills, you find that there's dissonance in that. And an organization which does not recognize that and try to bring those teams together to work together will then find it very difficult in the long run. But having said that, dissonance is important, right? You need to have that disagreement for new thoughts and new ideas to come through. Because if everyone is in agreement, that that organization cannot grow. You cannot come up with new concepts and new ideas. So it's when things become very personal, that's when the issue rises. When any disagreement is taken personally by people without considering this as a work requirement, then the issue starts coming up, and then there are people who try to repress, who want to avoid conflict at any cost, so they will not make their voice heard. They keep repressing, and at some point it breaks out. You can't repress ideas and concepts to such an extent that you are no longer able to work in that environment. They're very interesting concepts around how do you rediscover the agreement with people within your team, between other teams, between organizations, and also between you and technology too. With AI coming in, with machine learning making its appearance in almost all parts of your organization, how do you bring that agreement with technology and not have that dissonance that AI is here to take away your jobs, or AI is here to prove you're weak? It isn't that, right? How do you then work together with that to make upskill yourself to become much stronger persons that you are?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And that shows the power of what I love about collaborating and working and meeting new people like yourself, because you start to hear things differently, things are reframed. And, just the fact, like you just saying there, simply as look at conflict as disagreement. And now I know I'll take that away with, what does that mean to me? And how could I use that? Where language is so powerful, how could I use that to help someone in a different way of understanding what I might term as conflict? It's, like we say, you could say goals, but people don't like the word goals. They like focus, objectives, aspiration. How could you use that language to better help somebody? And that then goes back to, like we know with personality profiling, DISC is understanding yourself, but actually when you're working with someone, the priority is to understand how they work and how you get the best out of them from your style. And that again just shows the power of language, coaching, and the building relationships part. And just that's why I love the fact that it is so powerful having a strong network of people that get it, people that are where you want to be, as well, to push you and make you think, challenge the way you think on things. That's what is absolutely great about all the coaching.
Absolutely. You meet different people, you build those relationships with them, right? And that's what I think is a core of any interaction you have with others. And building those relationships happen when you are either the wavelengths match, or you communicate effectively so that there is no underlying misconceptions over there, and you are able to be open, and you don't have to put on a fake front, right? That's when things start building better collaborations, like you mentioned, and relationships. Yeah.
Great. I always kind of wrap up by asking some key questions. So I guess to yourself, what does, how do you measure success?
Success for me is if I've grown as a person, and and I feel content, yet there is a part of me which wants to keep learning, keep growing, keep building myself. And I think that journey from where I am today to where I see myself in a few years' time, I think that journey is what is success.
I think one of the lines I'm always saying is notice what you notice, and someone else shared that last week on a podcast about what contentment is, and that's really interesting, isn't it? That you start to hear different things, and that it's like when you want a car and you see a red car, and it's like, oh, you always see that red car now, but you start seeing share that, and it's like, and again, well, what does that mean, etc. So yeah, that's really powerful. What would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to be as driven as I was then, but at the same time, have empathy, because it's when I was young, as I had lack of awareness. So obviously I was being very brash and very uni-focused with blinkers on my eyes, couldn't see anything except the goal. So probably I would try and step back, be a little more empathetic to other people. At the same time, probably I would have started my meditation mindfulness journey earlier. because that would have helped me calm myself, step out of my own self and just observe how I was and understand why I reacted in a certain way, if at all. But otherwise, in terms of being focused, going towards your goal, all that is fine. You need to have that drive. You need to keep learning. You need to keep making mistakes and learning from that. Be a little more gentler to myself, possibly, because I used to have very high expectations of myself and was very negative if I did not achieve something, and drive myself further on that. But sometimes I think it's necessary to be gentle and give that positive messages to your own self.
All of that resonates, and profound advice for sure. What do you want to be known for as a coach?
I probably would like to be known as someone who's made a difference in a person's life and help that person to move forward in whatever way, whether it's their personal life, whether it's their professional life. I would love to be there to help women break those glass ceilings, to have that confidence, to be able to stand up and voice their opinions, to drive the diversity and inclusivity angle in organizations and help women to achieve that. That's one of my goals. Yeah.
A slightly different one here. What book has had the biggest impact to you?
I wouldn't say just one book. There have been many books that have created an impact. Probably Bounce was one of the earlier ones. Then, of course, 7 Habits of Highly Influential People. Yeah. There are many such books. And, of course, plenty of podcasts that I've been listening to. All of them have had an impact on me.
Yeah, you just said Bounce, actually. That's really interesting. When I just said Saeed, that's the person I meant earlier.
Matthew Saeed.
Yeah, so I haven't done Bounce, but Black Box Thinking I have.
Right.
And then I was listening to this podcast that I shared earlier that just shows, doesn't it, how interesting that is. He was the person that says, not quite sure what success means if I can define it. So yeah, an amazing inspirational man with, clearly, like we said, he's made an impact on the both of us, hasn't he? Grand. So yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate those shares, actually. And yeah, you're spot on. I need to go, and that's twice Bounce has come up in my world in 2 days. So I think that's a sign, right?
Yes, that is. Go for it. Read the book. You'll enjoy it.
Listen to Bounce and read it. Brilliant. And where can people find you if they want to reach out?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm available there. I'm also there on the headstride.com website. They can find my contact details on that. There on Twitter. Just reach out to seema.menon@headstride.com. Drop an email and I'll be more than happy to respond to it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I really value it. And it's been
my pleasure.
Thank you.
Lovely talking to you too. Take care.
Thank you for listening to my podcast today. I really hope you've taken some value. If you would like to focus on achieving your purpose-driven goals, then reach out and share with me one thing that's going great for you right now and one thing that you're really struggling with. Let's see if or how I can help you to leverage your business to make more money, make an impact, and have more freedom. As always, go take action, make an impact, and have a great day.